As the world's first 3D fighting game, Sega's iconic Virtua Fighter series has been kicking butt across a variety of platforms for nearly 35 years now. From the mainline entries that focus on martial arts in their purest form, to spin-offs that feature sentient race cars fighting floating grizzly bears, Akira and friends have certainly had their work cut out for them, especially when it concerns what never saw the light of day. Fighting game cut content is no stranger to the channel, so I thought it would be interesting to take this same format and apply it to Virtua Fighter, discovering what Sega AM2 threw in the bin during their adventures in software development. Before we begin, a massive shout out goes to the Cutting Room Floor website for documenting much of what we'll be discussing. I'll be relaying the information found in their numerous articles, and I can't recommend them enough. Please go check the site out. Without further ado, let's explore the cut content of Virtua Fighter. Behind all of these extraordinarily realistic character models lies a tsunami's worth of cut content. Seriously, there are more scrapped ideas in this one game than any of its children combined. Found within 1993's AOU show, an early iteration titled Virtua Fighters, yes, that's with an S, was publicly available to event goers, with announcer callouts existing in the release build.
Virtua Fighters! Virtua Fighters!
Aside from early character designs and stage textures, its gameplay loop appears pretty similar to the final game, give or take some crazy hit detection. However, its character roster's different naming conventions are completely different to what we're used to. Yagyu, Lee, and Willy were early names for Kage, Lao-chan, and Jeffrey, although Shiba is the real elephant in the room. Characters being cut from a fighting game happens all the time, but what really confuses me is just how much work went into Shiba. He has a biography, select screen assets, animations, and even finalized voice lines. His artwork made its way onto VF1's arcade cabinet for goodness sake, so I have no idea why Sega doomed Shiba to the Shadow Realm. Thankfully, these can all be reinserted back into the game via hacking. The same applies for Jeffrey and Takeru, the former being an American military man and not the Australian Jeffrey we know and love today. It's no secret that both Virtua Fighter and Tekken were directed by Seiichi Ishii, with the theory being that many of his scrapped character concepts made their way into Tekken when he left Sega for Namco. They too have unused biographies, as well as Akira, Lao-chan, and Australian Jeffrey. Aside from a corrupted view of a prototype character select screen and leftover audio files, there contains remnants of what's believed to be a form of in-game commentary. Almost every attack in the game has been assigned unique dialogue, and I would bet that you would hear these files should one of their associated moves be used to close out a round.
Power Bomb! Knuckle Bomber! Elbow Attack! Urainage! Uppercut! Body Slam! Brain Buster! Giant Swing! Octopus Hold!
Going back even further reveals alpha footage from June 10th, 1993. Found on a fan-made compilation disc titled Virtua Fighter The Beginning, this version of the game is noticeably early in development, containing unpolished character models, stage designs, animations, and even a title screen. Design documents highlighting an evil group called the Red Scorpion Organization and their leaders, Score, Rekka, and Aeon, provide a glimpse into VF1's initial narrative. These three have some leftover data that can still be found in the released game, but they use a bulk of Akira's files for their rendering. While it may look dated by today's standards, Virtua Fighter's innovative use of 3D graphics brought the game industry to new heights, a feat only replicated by its sequel. Improving on everything its older brother brought to the table, Virtua Fighter 2 represents a dramatic leap forward for the series, one that comfortably sits amongst AM2's most revered works. A hidden debug menu found in its arcade release lets us view two scrapped fighters, Mue and Kojak. These mysterious characters use a combination of Leon's character model and Akira's animations, making for a strange combination. Unfortunately, my attempts to access the debug menu on various emulators would disable the HUD and then softlock the game, so there wasn't much I was able to personally experiment with. Believe me when I say that I spent eons trying to figure out how to properly access the debug tools, as well as trying to find archived developer interviews, but just wasn't able to uncover further information. With how VF2 hit the arcades only a year after its prequel, it seems as though AM2 wrapped everything up in record time. However, the same can't be said for the game's Sega Saturn port, a respectable, yet arcade-imperfect conversion that resulted from a very complicated development. It might seem weird for me to highlight a home port with almost zero cut content, but if you know where to look, it's possible to find a prototype dubbed the 30% version. Compiled on September 11th, 1995, this iteration of VF2 is 2 months older than the final product, and as such, there's plenty of early content never meant to be seen by the public. From early character artwork that gives poor Akira a 1,000-yard stare, to incorrect music timing when a battle begins.
Fight! 1. Ready! Go! Fight! 1. Ready! Go!
The differences found within this footage are pretty interesting. The main menu and loading screens are unfinished, dynamic camera movement during wind poses haven't been implemented yet, and Shun's stage takes more inspiration from its arcade depiction than what's found in the final Saturn game. The console's hardware limitations prevented its designers from properly implementing the stage's real-time visuals, forcing them to include a standard sumo-style arena instead. We can see that the 30% version places its 3D assets in front of a scrolling 2D backdrop, proving that AM2 at least attempted to replicate the original stage with as much detail as possible. It's a shame that Virtua Fighter 2 doesn't have more meat for us to sink our teeth into, but with how quickly Sega was able to finish the game and get it out the door, I'm not surprised that there are only a handful of removed concepts. Given the video game industry's rapid technological advancements throughout the mid-90s, Sega was set to continue their hot streak with the next installment, Virtua Fighter 3. Taking advantage of their advanced Model 3 hardware, Sega developed VF3 with an experimentation-focused mindset, using a brand new dodge button and uneven terrain to shatter the gameplay conventions that fans had grown accustomed to. Before we jump into the arcade release, it's worth mentioning that Virtua Fighter 3's location test was home to some exclusive content not found in the final game. Thankfully, footage of said content made its way onto Virtua Fighter History, a bonus disc bundled with Shenmue 2's Japanese release. Renders that depict Shun-Di, Leon, Pai, and Aoi wearing unused outfits have survived, along with footage of these costumes in action. The video's potato quality makes it almost impossible to scrutinize the finer details, but a few of the more obvious qualities can easily be seen. Sarah's subway stage has early lighting and texture work, Lao's Great Wall stage has an early camera animation before the fight begins, the waterfalls in Aoi's snow stage are different sizes, her outfit is missing its sleeves, and Leon's side switch throw was transformed completely. If you've ever fallen victim to Virtua Fighter 2's input reading AI, then you'll probably remember how every fighter had their own game-over voice lines. Despite recording new dialogue for every character in Virtua Fighter 3, Sega decided to scrap them in favor of a voiceless ranking display. Luckily, the in-game sound test contained these files, preventing them from becoming lost.
There's no way to stop here.
My next adversary is waiting for me!
Come on! I want to fight more!
I still want to fight!
So, there was someone stronger than me!
Speaking of cut audio, there exist 3 leftover songs within the arcade version's data. What I find pretty funny is that all of these songs were brought back for Virtua Fighter 3 TB Online, an arcade re-release that launched in 2023. I guess Sega was just sitting on these files for almost 30 years and finally decided to put them to good use. While the game might not have taken off in the West thanks to its $10,000 arcade cabinet, VF3 was a smash hit in Japan, so much so that it kept the ball rolling until the next game. In addition to helping solidify 2001 as one of gaming's brightest years, Virtua Fighter 4 was the first installment I ever owned, and I spent so much time going through quest mode back in high school. Man, it was fun. Unfortunately, I was only able to find an almost paltry amount of cut content regarding the game's PS2 release, with no information being available for its Evolution update. As this version is more or less an expansion concerned with balance changes and extra aesthetic flourishes, I'm not too shocked by this, so for now, let's focus on vanilla. Through the use of action replay cheats, we can access unfinished stages that I assume were utilized for testing purposes. Despite these codes listing 6 whole stages for us to explore, 5 of them load this cityscape, with the latter bringing us to a building's interior, one that was repurposed for Evolution's end credits. My theory involves the developers scrapping the stage partway through production after intending for it to be a proper arena, only reusing these assets for Evolution since it would have been cheaper than creating a new environment from scratch. Plus, the developers were able to manipulate the camera here to hide any imperfections. To my knowledge, the city was never reused for a sequence that the player was meant to see. Having said that, it reminds me a lot of Jacky's stage. Perhaps this was an early version that involved fighting above the streets below? Found within the arcade version's files is a dummy fighter who was obviously designed as a prototype. Using featureless character models as stand-ins before finalizing their designs is like video games 101, and its average proportions make it useful for testing the ways in which characters can interact with one another. Now that we're on the topic of cut fighters again, Virtua Fighter 3's Taka Arashi never appeared in either Vanilla VF4 or Evolution, making him the first of Sega's fighters to forego a sequel. In a series where bringing back the entire existing roster for each game is the norm, kicking Taka to the curb is quite unusual. What did he ever do anyway? Well, eating too much chunkanabe is the answer, as his removal was due to issues involving his specific weight class. Unique animations, fall speed, and launch distance were but a few of the problems Sega ran into when fitting him into their new engine, with these complications being so severe that AM2 decided to cut their losses and remove him entirely. Hell, Taka also skipped out on vanilla Virtua Fighter 5, only returning in VF5R. Although I would love to talk more about VF4's scrapped content, this is all I was able to find. But now that I've mentioned the sequel, let's move into VF5 territory. Interestingly, Virtua Fighter 5's cut content isn't easily accessible in the same vein as its siblings. I searched high and low for early concept art, developer interviews, prototype footage, etc., but just wasn't able to find anything concrete. In the interest of not having the video just kind of anticlimactically end out of nowhere, I'll flip the script a little and instead focus on what was lost with each new game revision. Previous Virtua Fighter titles would receive updated home ports galore, but the 20 years of support given to VF5 has resulted in a head-spinning number of re-releases that would often remove content. Vanilla Virtua Fighter 5, better known as version A, leaped its way into Japanese arcades in July of 2006, with home ports based on version B and C making their way to the PS3 and Xbox 360 worldwide in 2007. The following year, Sega launched Virtua Fighter 5R, a major update with new characters, animations, cosmetic items, and pretty much whatever else you can think of. VF5R had its own version B and C updates, and at this point, the game's content just kept growing over time. 2010's Final Showdown update may not have introduced any new combatants, but it added even more cosmetics and remixed stages. Unlike the aforementioned home ports that debuted physically, Final Showdown was only a digital title, falling victim to Xbox Live's strict 2GB size requirement. In order to squeeze out a 1.9GB file size, which is hilarious, AM2 had to remove 2 costumes per character, every original stage design found in the arcade version, and also quest mode. Yep, Virtua Fighter's revered single-player mode had to be taken out. This all might sound like doom and gloom, but with how VF5R never received a home conversion, Final Showdown was Sega's way of getting arcade-exclusive content onto consoles. After an extended hiatus that left many wondering if the series would ever return, 2021 gave us Ultimate Showdown, a PS4 conversion of Final Showdown. With digital size restrictions being a thing of the past, it was pretty ironic how this updated port had fewer customization options than its older brother. DLC cosmetics kind of made up for this, at least in theory, as you still had to buy them, and quest mode remained MIA too. The cutting room floor reports that character facial animations from Yakuza Like a Dragon are hidden away in the files, and with how both games were developed for RGG's Dragon Engine, this makes a lot of sense. As of early 2025, Ultimate Showdown was replaced by VF5 Revo World Stage. Rollback netcode, crossplay, and a brand new single-player mode aim to break the curse of bare bones offerings. Unless Sega goes wild and decides to drop another update before Virtua Fighter Crossroads comes out, I think this is the last we'll be seeing of VF5, and by extension, its cut content, going forward. For a franchise as old as Virtua Fighter, it's no wonder that countless of its ideas never saw the light of day. Virtually any video game series you can think of has almost certainly experienced a form of cut content, and it's amazing how we've been able to experience what Sega has kept hidden in the vault. Once again, a giant thank you goes to the cutting room floor for their awesome documentation. It's amazing how many details they've unearthed, and I couldn't have made this video without the site. Okay, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you and your time, and I hope you had fun. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.